Guys, welcome to the ElkShape Podcast. We're in Southeast Idaho, kicking it with a legend, Jerry Carter. How are you?
A legend in my own mind. Huh?
So, yeah, that's what your wife would probably say, right?
Yeah, she probably wouldn't.
Yeah, well, thanks for letting me tour your little factory and get to know your staff. You got a small, cool little team going there. How long you guys been in business?
Well, I've been making releases, and I said, Keith, look what I did to your release. And he says, Jerry, that's a great idea. You mind if I use it? I said, nah, go ahead. And 20 years later, I got a cease and desist for one of the wrists.
Anymore, are they?
Well, they sold out, and Bill Scott's son-in-law is, yeah.
Oh, yeah, B3.
Owns B3. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right, outdoor group.
So anyway.
Okay,
yeah.
So you've been in the game a while.
I have, and I never did like just the regular hooks that you had to. That's all that was legal when I started shooting a release. So the minute I heard that trigger releases were legal, I was shooting a tournament in Preston, Idaho, and they said that they were legal, and I went home and I worked all night. Made me my first trigger release and went back down and won the tournament with it. And guy says, can I see that? And I said, sure. Well, that release came out later on. I won't say who made it, but it came out and they did well with it.
Okay, so far we've had a guy getting his ideas kind of. If anyone asks to see your next release, you probably shouldn't show them, eh?
Oh, no.
I'm joking.
I feel like the archery industry has done really good for me, so
yeah,
I don't mind them taking a few of my ideas and going running with them.
Do you have an engineering background?
No.
Really?
I don't read very good, so when I close my eyes, I see pictures. And I see all my releases before I ever go to making them. I used to go for drives and plan what I was making on my next release, and I got to closing my eyes and I ran off the road, so I don't do that anymore.
I believe you. Yeah, that's great. Well, you have a beautiful place here in Idaho. How long have you been an Idaho resident?
All my life.
Really? Mm-hmm. Born and raised here in St. Anthony?
Rexburg.
Rexburg guy? Okay.
And I built this one to match the old ledge release that Pete Shepley made. And then I made it the first double sear release that was made. And it's just incredible. The trigger on this thing.
So this is like one of your first release dates you ever made?
Yeah, this is pretty much the first production one I made. I made them all by hand, so. And
wow.
Go ahead and try that trigger.
Oh, it is very light. Wow.
I used to make them so light that you couldn't cock them with the weight on the trigger. The weight of the trigger would actually set it off. And I built that so that would go right in the crease in your thumb, and then I'd stand there until it went off. Then I got out of making releases for an archery for quite a few years. I had an automotive machine shop.
Okay.
I bored blocks and did valve jobs and ground crankshafts and stuff like that. Then I decided I would get back into it, so I made a release that was kind of like the old fail-safe. Lloyd Napier was a friend of mine, but I made this one out with a guy in Teton, which is over here about 5 or 6 miles. And this was just an incredible release. I'm a trigger man.
Why don't you make this one anymore? This one's pretty slick.
Oh, I make them as good as that.
Yeah.
Anymore, but this took a lot of handwork, and I made how
What
many
was
did
this
I
one
make?
called?
20 of them,
I think we took 25 to Vegas that first year.
and took them down to Vegas, and they were gone in the first hour.
Oh yeah.
Nobody had ever seen anything like this.
Well, hopefully you took some pre-orders while you were down there.
Well, I was working 24 hours a day, about 5 days a week, and it almost killed me. So then I got a little help and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, so I was first introduced to Carter probably shaking your son's hand, Forrest. I had bought a couple releases, and I don't know how we'd got introduced. I think it was an archery trade show, but I'm not for sure. But I found out he was from Idaho, and we kind of hit it off, and he liked a little bit of heavy rock and roll and metal, and asked me some fitness questions. I think I sent Forrest a couple workout programs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you ever did them. I never heard back from him, but that's how I met him, and that's all I've known. And then a couple years later, several years later, I saw that you guys started working with I'm a friends with John Dudley, and he sent me a backstrap release, and he wanted me to try it out, and I was like, this looks like a Carter release. And then I started figuring out that the knock-on releases were really, you guys are making those, and those have done extremely well.
Yes, they have. John,
I do camps all over the country. I've done it for 5.5 years. I'll have anywhere from 30 to 40 guys come to a camp to learn how to elk hunt, and the first thing we address is their target panic. And I'm telling you, for every 3 guys, someone's got a knock to it, which is pretty cool. And then, of course, the evolution. Is that what it's called? What's the one that Dudley makes? That's the silverback, tension activated. Yeah, see a lot of those. That's you guys.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. How's that worked out for you guys?
It's not my favorite release, but it's a great release. We make a lot of them.
You said something earlier today that I told you you're going to have to say on this podcast, and that's, it's about this guy. What did you say?
I said that this is the best release I've ever made. I feel there's just nothing like it.
Okay, you got to say that one more time. This is for me.
This is probably the best release I have ever made in my life. It works on magnets, has only one spring in it, and it's the most torque-free release of anything I've ever made. Where the jaw is situated, it's right over your middle finger, and when you pull that baby, it aligns so good. If you move your fingers, the jaw isn't really moving, it's staying in the same place.
Oh, wow.
And then it's so easy to go from light to heavy. I love this thing.
Yeah, it's pretty ingenious that you can carry with you the magnets, and you can increase the poundage. Yeah,
the magnets have their own little storage spot right there.
Yep.
Davey showed you all of that.
Yeah, I was really impressed. When does this come
nice.
out? That's what the folks are going to want to know.
Right now.
Wow.
Yep. Right now. You're getting the first batch.
That's pretty exciting.
And I put this lever on there that's off the chocolate addiction so that you can put the barrel anywhere you want. And the adjusto trigger, that's what I call this. That came from, I'm the one that invented it because there was a guy that worked at MIT, or he was a student at MIT, and he had some of my releases, and he didn't think I did a very good job of engineering it because I just took a dowel pin that was 3/4 of an inch long and forced it in there. And he broke his trigger trying to change it from right-handed to left-handed. And so I had to make something that even an engineer from MIT couldn't screw up. So I made the adjusto trigger.
Yeah.
And I was pretty proud of that. And now everybody makes it.
Let's talk about naming these things, because you guys have some incredible names, and I got to know the secret sauce behind that. Like, and what is your favorite one that you've named so far that you're like, that's the coolest name we've ever had come up with?
Oh, I don't know. The names just come to me.
It's like Just Because, and then there's...
That was from Dave Cousins.
Okay.
And we were on a flight together coming back from a tournament in New York, and he was shooting the target 3, and I said, Dave, let's make a release with your name on it, and we'll just call it the Just Cuz. So we took the target 3 and put a hole around it so that he could spin it, and if you watch, he spins it. And that's the only reason we put the hole on it.
I've literally said that to people that I'd shoot the first choice, but I can't spin it. You know, that's...
Yep.
Archers are silly. And Dave Cousins, by the way, those that you younger guys, look him up. He's a legendary tournament archer and bow hunter. Speaking of bow hunting, how many years have you been bow hunting?
Well, I hunt a place to take a nap now. I'm done shooting anything, but I absolutely love to go out and hear elk bugle. I've got my spots up on the Continental Divide that I can drive up there in the evening and see anywhere from 500 to 25 elk every night. And it's really fun to go up and listen to them bugle. And I hunted quite a few years, and one of my things that I would do was I'd go climb a mountain, and I would take a rock and put it in my pocket and bring it back down. And my kids had a collection of all the mountains I climbed because I'd bring back a rock from the top of them.
Oh, that's special.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yesterday, I was in some mountains in Montana, and I told myself I was going to take a photo of every wildflower I came across. Well, dude, there's a lot of them I didn't realize, but I'm going to send each one of them to my daughter. She's turning 9 this weekend, and she does have a phone. Don't judge me, but it's not like it doesn't have cell service or anything like that. But she can get a text at least from me, and so I'm gonna send her a text with like a little bouquet of all the wildflowers I picked. But I like that idea, because when you're up there, you're thinking about them too. I mean, yeah, you're elk hunting,
Sure.
but you're thinking about their family.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, that's God's temple. There isn't a place that I'm more humble than in the Redwoods. We was left Redding one time. Instead of going back the way we normally drive back, we came back through the Redwoods, and that is the most serene place I've ever been in my life. It just makes you humble to see those trees that have been around for 1,000 years and what they've all seen in their lifetime. It just makes you very humble.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to check that box, but it's definitely just got bumped up. That's cool. Redding, that's a great tournament still to this day. They call it the Western Trail or whatever.
Yes.
Do you still go shoot that from time to time?
I don't. It's too much for me to walk around there anymore. And it's probably the most fun you can have with your clothes on.
Really? Yeah, sell me on why I should go, because I've definitely thought about it.
Well, you have targets from 6 feet to 101 yards.
The famous elk, or is that the famous Sasquatch?
Mm-hmm. That's not the elk. That's the Bigfoot.
The Bigfoot, yeah.
And we have always sponsored. You get a 22 on Bigfoot, you get half off on our release.
Oh.
And it's just a great shoot. It's the best run shoot that I've ever been to in my life.
I need to check that out. Yeah, so basically you 2 arrows, and if you hit inside the orange, it's 11.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can double up at 101 on a Bigfoot, you get 50% off. You guys still do that?
Oh, do we still do that?
That's a good question.
I don't know. That's a great idea.
We did the last time Forrest went there, so I don't know.
Yeah. And so you were probably an archery manufacturer hitting the old archery tournament scene. Did you prefer IBO, ASA, indoor?
No, I started on 3D shooting.
Okay.
A friend of mine named Vic Erickson started the first 3D shoots there was around, and he would draw the vitals on the animals that we were shooting at, and you'd have plus points and minus points. In the first tournament I went to, he scored a plus, I don't know, 30, and I scored a plus 3.
Ooh.
And we were the only people in the plus column. So I kind of got hooked on tournaments, but I like the known yardages, and because when you go hunting, I always use a rangefinder. I don't like to make bad shots on animals, so that's field archery was my cup of tea. I loved field archery.
Yep. Okay. I have personally not been much into the tournament scene. I do think I might slip more into it, but the only reason I would do it is just to become a better bow hunter, right? And as a bow hunter, I'm always emulating target archers. Like, what are their setups? What's their tuning? What's their latest tuning hacks and whatnot? When did you start working on your own equipment and learning how to really tune your own equipment?
Day one.
Day one. It was all you.
Yeah, I started before there was compounds.
Right.
And first compound I ever saw was an Allen, and it was shot by a friend of mine at Don. Can't remember. And Don Larson. And he won the tournament very easily I thought that was pretty neat. I was going to do my best to get a compound. And I would shoot the recurves until I had no feeling in my middle finger.
So what was your first compound bow?
Probably a Carroll.
I've never heard of that one. Okay.
Yeah, Carrolls were made in southern Utah.
Okay.
And they were a nice bow. And then I got the Jennings. Tom Jennings built them. My friend Dean Pridgeon. I just talked to him the other day. He's 86 now, 86 or 87. And he and his wife have won more tournaments than any husband and wife there is around.
Wow. Do you have a bow that comes to mind as soon as I ask this question that was the most forgiving, the most accurate, or at least gave you the most confidence that maybe you should have never gave away or put away somewhere?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, every bow you shoot will shoot in the same hole. Forgiving is only from how steady you can hold it when the shot goes off. The release will make you a chump or a champ.
Oh, good soundbite.
And the release is the most important part of your shooting. All the bows, Dean Pridgeon used to tell me when he was the world champion and all of that, he used to tell me, he said, Jerry, there might be 2 or 3 points in tuning your bow. He said, but you got 10 in you. So
you're not wrong. I really believe that. Well, I have a couple releases of yours on the table. I'd love to get a soundbite or your narration of how you designed it or what's your favorite thing about it or who it might be for. I've probably killed the most stuff with this guy right here.
Yep. That's a real good release for short draw lengths. And you can cock it, hook it on your string, set in your stand, and it's all ready to go.
I love the short neck on it. I really do.
And it's okay. And I'll tell you one of the best things that this release can do for you, as well as this one. They can allow you to use a hair longer D-loop on your bow. If you have a short D-loop, like most people tie on, they torque the D-loop a little bit, and the strings, what are you holding, 6 or 7 pounds now? You watch the string, and it torques all over the place. So the longer D-loop you have on there, the more it does, the less it affects the string. So with a very short throat on them, that will allow you to put the longer D-loop on and get better accuracy. Because when you're back here, I don't care who you are, you do not have the same acre every time. It'd be nice if we did, but
Yep.
if you have a beard, that'll get in the way of your string. Whether you have it on your nose, this is something I see quite often. It's when people put the string on their nose, you watch that string and it'll go just like that where their nose touches it. So another thing, they get in here and really get a solid anchor. Well, what if you turn your head a little bit? Then your anchor is different. So if you can have just a nice light touch on all of it, just something that tells you, yeah, I'm pretty close. And then center your peep.
Mm-hmm.
Don't look through the bottom of it or the top of it. Center your peep. And use that for your anchor. Because if you torque your string, that will make a big difference on where you're hitting, especially at long ranges.
I was going to say, that really shows up at like the Total Archery Challenges when you don't really work that peep and centering it. You get exposed.
John Dudley is one of the best long-range archers I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
I watched him shoot a little cottontail at 110 yards. Rangefinder, my friend Jim Bass says, I'll give you $100 if you can hit that rabbit.
I'm expecting a bigger machine shop, to be quite honest. I walk in there and what's the gal's name? Is it Bobby?
Bonnie.
Bonnie.
She's wonderful.
Glue of the company. I mean, I recognize talent when I see it, and she was pure gold. And so I got the idea, like, okay, this is a very intimate, small, family-owned and operated business. And then I find out that one of your head guys, you're putting them up in a house right next to the shop. And then Davey, the guy I'm working with, you're taking care of your employees like people used to. What's happened to businesses like that? Like, is that just something you guys have always done?
Oh, I think that, yeah, we have. But I think the reason you don't have a lot of other people doing that is because of the greed. And a lot of times you'll train an employee and get them so they can actually make you money, and they go do their own thing.
Yep, I've had that happen a lot in my life.
So, but we've got a real good crew now. Our two Vietnamese, Stephen and Kent, they've been with us 23 years.
That's some longevity.
And they're both really good. I ride a electric quad. I ride at 55 miles every day, and that's a lot of pedaling. And I've worn them out. I put over 10,000 miles a year on them. So we've jump on our new lathe in there and make axles and all kinds of stuff for them.
You're sure you're not an engineer?
No, not me. I even made bits for horses.
You did?
I have a bit that just knock your socks off.
Well, not mine, but my father and his wife. Yeah, they would.
You'd like it too. It's a bit that, the shanks are always welded on and stuff like that. Well, these have holes in it, and it's adjustable, the angle of the shank, so you can start a young one on with no leverage on it, and as you get them trained, you can move it down so you have a leverage like a severe bit. Then I made different mouthpieces, and all of that's adjustable. And then I couldn't find the bit holder I wanted, so I got some leather stuff and I started making some bit holders. I've done a lot of things.
I wish I had a brain like that where, well, if I want to make something like that, I'll just make it myself how I want it. That's truly remarkable. Yeah, but your employees and the business and all that, it's just really, it's special to see what you guys have created. Wow, I mean, that was probably my highlight today, was to find out Davey lives right there. And is it Seth? Or Stefan? He lived right there, and just good people, and incredible. And then you have more releases in your head. That's exciting.
Yes, I do.
And my biggest takeaway was, 1 or 2 points on a tune bow, but 10 points on a release. I'm not going to forget that. I think that's pretty cool. And you sold me. I'm going to spend some time with that new Whisper, too. I think that's going to be the ticket. And thank you for letting me be one of the first to try it out. We'll make some good content about that. Speaking of content, you don't buy ads in magazines anymore. Do you guys still buy ads?
A few with Inside Archery?
Inside Archery. God bless
And
those folks.
probably the one in Australia.
No.
No more?
How many Inside Archery's covers have you guys been on?
None.
None?
Grand total of none.
Haters. Well, I don't have a relationship with magazines anymore, so I can be the truthful friend. Ain't nobody reading magazines anymore. I used to write for Bowhunter magazine. Rest in peace, Dwight Shue. He gave me my first start in the industry back in 2006.
I like Dwight.
He's gold, pure gold human, and he was so into fitness, and I really wasn't a very good bow hunter or archer yet, but I had a passion for it, and I was a very good strength and conditioning coach, so he gave me an opportunity to write for them, and that really blossomed into some other things in the industry. But the industry has changed to this new digital era, which has afforded me an opportunity to come hang out with Jerry Carter and April Carter and see their facility and make a YouTube video that's going to get a lot of views, and to make some social media stuff. What's that like from your lens, seeing how marketing's changed over the years?
I hate marketing. They can make a sow's ear sound like a silk purse, and I see what they've done, and I did that 20 years ago, and it's all right. And then they patent it. I had a guy call me up and tell me I was infringing on his patent. So I sent him a dated digital document that I had of when I had invented it and when I stopped making it. He said, okay.
Good.
So
Yeah. Now, you've invented a lot of stuff. You've been a key fixture in the archery community. What do you want to? I want to finish this podcast with this. Like, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind, Jerry? I know that stuff matters to me. I'm convinced it's got to matter to you. What kind of legacy were you hoping to leave behind?
what I hope to leave behind is to make everybody a better archer, to make them as good as they possibly can be. Because when people look at my releases, I don't know if they see art in that, but that's art to me. I have a very good friend that's a wildlife artist, and I told the lady one time in the store, I said, that's Clark Kelly Price. We used to make bows together when we were in grade school, and he's a very famous artist. And she says, well, why aren't you? And I said, I am. This is my art. And I'd like to make people a better archer. I do, make them a better shot.
I think you're doing that, man. That's awesome. I want to thank you for your time.
It's my pleasure.
Pleasure to finally meet you face to face. I've known about you for a long time. April, the Heartbeat. What's the website people should check out?
CarterEnterprises.com.
CarterEnterprises.com. I'm assuming you guys are on social media as well. I'll leave links in the show notes of their website, how to get your hands on that new Whisper 2, and how to follow them on Instagram. And someday soon, they're going to make their own YouTube channel if I do my part and convince them guys to make some more content with me. And guys, remember, separation is in the preparation. We'll catch you on the next one.